Good evening, everybody. Sammy Thunder here. Welcome back to the channel. Tonight is the follow-up video from last week about card shows. I asked you guys, what do you guys think? Do you prefer to buy your vintage at card shows or do you buy them online? And I got a lot of great comments from you guys. I'm going to share some of those comments tonight. And then we're going to finish off talking a little bit about bargain bin boxes. What are your thoughts on that? So stick around. Let's get to some of these questions and comments. Our first question comes from Andrew. He asks, how much more comfortable are you selling cards at shows than an online platform like eBay? I mean, both have risks, but would be interested to hear your thoughts on that. Ash the dealer had his card stolen at a show, and I've heard of other stories of bad actors in the hobby who committed theft at other shows too. But then eBay has their scammers as well. So if you were looking to move a big money card, would you sell it online at a show or maybe send it to a reputable auction house? Thanks, Sammy. Great question, first off, Andrew. And, there's obviously the big concern with card shows these days is security. It has been a hot topic, especially in 2024. And when I went to the National, there was a lot of heightened security. So in terms of me being a dealer and setting up at shows, I prefer to sell in person. I understand the security concern, but for me personally, I would prefer to sell in person. It's just easier for me that way. I love the interaction, I love the dialogue. And so for me personally, to avoid the eBay fees and so forth, I prefer to sell in person. So this comes from JCH Collins. JCH writes, I love shows, instant gratification. I see the cards, inspect them up close, have a good conversation with the dealer, and boom, if we come to a deal, it's mine right then and there. I love that. No waiting around days or a week or sometimes longer for it to show up in the mail and hope everything is okay with the packaging, etc. Don't get me wrong, I love that we have the option of eBay and Facebook and all these different, much better allocated markets now compared to when I was 12 in 1989. But to me, nothing will ever beat the in-person experience of a card show. I try to make it happen as often as possible. So JCH brings up a number of great concerns that I think people have when it comes to deciding should I buy it at a show or go online and buy it. With packaging, and there's a lot of people out there that do a great job with packaging. I would say a majority do, but there are some that just don't have that level of experience who won't package a card the way that we come to expect. So JCH Collins brings up a great point about buying the card in person. If you buy it, come to a deal with the dealer. Your card is yours right then and there. No shipping fees, no packaging issues. You get to go home with it that day. Cardboard and Plastic writes, I hate to negotiate. It is not fun for me. Would rather bid on auctions, buy it now, and COMC. If I sell cards, I post the price I want and don't even answer messages for negotiating prices. If the card doesn't sell, I don't care. I'm in the hobby to enjoy it, and I don't enjoy haggling over prices. This I completely understand. Negotiating in person can be an uncomfortable task or a task you just really don't want to deal with, and that's a very direct way of doing it. There's nothing wrong with doing it that way. And even selling, you could sell it at the price you want, and if it doesn't sell, that's fine. So in your case, I have no issue with your method, with your preference. Buying online in your case, or doing a buy it now, COMC, or auctions, perfect. Nothing wrong with that. So Henry S. writes, I prefer card shows. If we had them, I know a lot of other YouTubers who don't have them either. eBay has been very slow with some items not arriving. Card buyers stew over $1 cards and combine shipping all evening, making exact sure we're getting the best deal. All I'm doing is buying low, mid-grade commons for set builds and getting screwed at every other turn. It's costing a fortune to build a 100-card set at $5 a card. So I've been there, Henry. I've been there. I totally understand what you're saying. And a lot of the times, what I have discovered when I was set building a lot was I'd find better deals at shows because of the variety of condition preferences that are out there. All right, so this comes from Anthony C. I like going to card shows. I like looking and touching the cards. I also like talking to the dealers, learning about the history of the cards. I find most dealers will negotiate prices. You also don't have to worry about sales tax and shipping costs, With technology, the buyers have more resources to monitor prices to see if they are getting the best deal. Before cell phones, dealers had an upper end on setting prices. My only question is, if you're looking at higher priced cards, can you get a better deal if you wait later in the day rather than buying when the show first opens? I know if you wait, you take the risk of losing the card. I would think a dealer may give you a better deal later in the show. Thank you. Keep up the great work, Sammy. That's a great question, and it's often brought up. Waiting on a certain card, depending on what it is, I think that's really the key thing. If you find a certain card that fits your particular condition preference and the way it looks and so forth, chances are if you wait, you probably will get a better deal. So I think you have to weigh your options. You have to use your best instinct, use your best judgment. But of course, it's a no-brainer. Dealers are there to move things, and you can always go back later and try your best to be able to get that card for a lot less. It's a risk. You have to really assess it in so many ways. I think it depends on the card. So if it's a 56 tops Jackie Robinson and you're at a giant show like the National, I don't see any problem waiting. It's not a difficult card to find at another table for a similar price or a better price. So it all depends. It just depends on the card, I think, ultimately. So Mark Stein writes, I guess I'll be the contrarian here. I prefer online purchases because in a true auction, not buy it now, you are very likely getting the card at actual market value. Dealers at shows I've attended are always 25 to 30% above market price, and they are often stubborn and arrogant when you try to negotiate. It's nice to avoid the shipping and sales tax, but usually those savings fail to make up for their inflated pricing. So again, this kind of goes back to the concern about card shows to begin with. Card show prices on cards are inflated. They're always up beyond what the market value is going for. The thing is that a lot of these auctions define what the market value is. When you go on 130 Point, you tend to see what these cards are going for based on auction prices. I know some people use the buy it now, but I think auctions give you a much better determination on what a card value is. Auction prices, to me, define the ultimate value of these cards, and you sometimes have to go a little bit deeper as well. But ultimately, Mark, I do understand where you're coming from. Buying it via auction sometimes works out really well, and I've been on that receiving end of that. Billy Ballgame, great topic. I love card shows. I enjoy being with friends while they buy cards. Every time I buy a card at a show, I remember who I was with, and it makes buying the card more memorable. I enjoy the negotiation and talking to the dealers. I guess what is the most consistently frustrating for me is how often I see ungraded cards that are way overpriced. I often see ungraded cards priced extremely high, like 6 or 7 prices high for a card full good and well isn't a 6 or 7. I see a lot of ungraded Nolan Ryan rookies priced at $1,000, for example. That's priced like a 5.5 when probably grade a 4. So I did a video on this, about less than a month ago, talking about buying ungraded raw, high-priced cards. To me, it's a risk, and I agree with Billy on this. There are two types of buyers. There are buyers that have an incredible amount of experience who know what to look for and plan on sending those out and don't mind taking that risk. And then the other buyer are those raw collectors who prefer to have really high condition looking cards in their collection and are willing to pay a premium for those. So ultimately, I understand where Billy's coming from in this case. All right, everybody, awesome job. Thank you so much for your comments. I want to finish this video off, taking this into next week, talking a little bit about bargain bin boxes at card shows. I'll give you my take on this. I think bargain bin boxes are phenomenal at finding some really good gems in there. And a lot of these bins are usually count boxes or plastic containers that contain a mess full of top loader cards. A number of dealers that offer these opportunities, like Stan's Vintage has a bargain bin box, and there's a number of other dealers like at the National or at Strongsville that do the same. Now, it's a matter of taking the time to go through them and valuing your time, especially if you're at one of those giant shows. If you spend 30 minutes looking through one dealer's bargain box, you've given up a huge percentage of your time at a show. So I will say there are a number of different people that are going into these bargain boxes with the intention of finding some really good gems and putting it in their inventory to sell. There are some people that are looking for some good gems to add to their collection. You have to look at what the prices are going for in those bargain bin boxes, what percentage they have off, and that will ultimately tell you how much time to spend at a particular table. Because once you kind of get an idea of what a dealer is asking for, that will tell you, do I spend the next 20-30 minutes finding cards that I can add to my inventory, to my collection, or should I move on to another table and do the same thing? It's a repeat process. But I think ultimately it comes down to, what are these dealers pricing these bargain bin cards at? Is there an opportunity to make a deal on bulk? That's another thing. But let me know what you guys think ultimately, because this can go into many different directions. I know there's a lot of guys here that love going to the bargain bin boxes. So tell me, what do y'all think about the bargain bin box system at different dealers' tables? How do you go about it? How do you navigate it? And we'll check back in next week, and I'll pick out some comments and we'll talk further. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you soon. Take care.